Today, I'm here in Battle Creek, Michigan in the Oak Hill Cemetery, about to go on a really cool guided tour of the Seventh-day Adventist history and pioneers who are buried here. That's coming up next.
All right, this is the Post Mausoleum. This is Post, C.W. Post. Come closer, you guys. You don't have to be so far away. This is a picture of Post, and his years are 1854 to 1914. Okay, so he's living right at the same time as Kellogg. He's a little bit. He dies younger, and but he's roughly a contemporary of John Harvey Kellogg. He was a businessman. He tried a number of things and didn't have good success at first. He developed some problems with depression. He struggled with mental health issues through much of his life. But he was at one point a patient in the Battle Creek Sanitarium, and he needed to be a patient, and he was helped. Being a businessman sort of guy, he was amazed that John Harvey Kellogg didn't make more of his inventions and the things he was doing. He felt he could make a lot of money off of this. So later he came back as a patient, this time when he wasn't sick, and took notes. Now, lest you think he was just devious, it wasn't really the case, because John Harvey Kellogg's view was the more the merrier. If we can have good health in America with people, then do it, make money. John Harvey Kellogg was not driven by financial greed. His greed was in other areas. Greed of influence, greed of power, this sort of thing. So, each person, we have our weaknesses. And so Post ended up with really John Harvey's blessing, if not blessing, at least tacit, agreement is fine. He went across town and he started his own business. There were a whole bunch of cereal businesses that started and failed. Post didn't fail. And you've probably, if you've lived a while as an Adventist, you've eaten some of the products. Grape nuts, right? Anyone had grape nuts? Where did he get grape nuts from? Really from Kellogg. Now it's modified, it's not quite the same. But to be fair, Kellogg got it from James Jackson in Dansville, New York, who had a sanitarium. So there's a lot of copying, developing, inventing, reinventing, expanding that's going on. And Post is involved in that as well. And of course, many Adventists appreciate Postum. I think it's being made again very expensively. Have you had Postum? Is there anyone old enough who used to drink Postum? It's a cereal, people call it burned cereal, But if you grow up with it, you kind of like it and get addicted to it almost. It doesn't have any caffeine in it. And really, this is the type of beverage, although it didn't taste identically the same, that John Harvey Kellogg had. So Post copied a lot of Kellogg's health inventions and was another person who made it successful, just like his brother W.K., John Harvey's brother W.K. did, okay? So he became a big name. Now, Post, of course, made a lot of money. He even built a house, or more of a mansion, that he then opened as a tourist attraction, so you could come in and see how the very rich lived, And he charged admissions. So he ended up making money on his mansion by people coming to look at it wishing they could have one, and just trying to say ooh ah and all this stuff. It had beautiful green velvet inside and fancy woods and all kinds of stuff. You still find in antique stores sometimes the postcards from the 1930s and 20s, even a little bit earlier. This is after he died at that point, but they have pictures of his home or his mansion there that he was making money on too. So he turns everything to profits. Unfortunately, there's a difference of opinion here. I think it is true that he actually ended up killing himself in 1914. He committed suicide. Probably there was some effect from the mental health issue, but there's also the fact that he was having some acute pain issues from complications of appendicitis. So the combination of those things, he took his own life. Now he brought in special marble, granite, other stones to construct this mausoleum. I don't have my notes right now. My mind, it tells me it's like $100,000. Betty's recording, and remember I told you I couldn't find my notes. So I'm working on my mind. So Betty, I want to tell your recording that you need to follow whatever is written and published. But my mind is telling me it was about $100,000. I'm remembering that.
At that time?
At that time. So that's a fabulous amount of money. He's not actually buried up on top here. He's down under 9 feet of concrete. Okay. Now some people have said, well, that's because he wasn't a Christian. He was opposed to Christian faith. And so Adventists have generally said at this cemetery that he was buried that way because he didn't want to come up in the resurrection. That I cannot verify. I don't know that that's true. I think we need to be careful not to say that. There are other arguments. He was buried with some of his valuables, and he didn't want to have his body disturbed, ever. So there's that other view. I don't find any evidence for the resurrection thing. I think someone in the past maybe connected the 9 feet of concrete and his being opposed to Christian faith and constructed this idea. We do this sometimes. We take these leaps, and we need to be careful not to do that.
So he began construction of this before?
No, I don't think so. No, it was built. He left money with his estate to do this. There are other family members that are buried here as well. But I don't want to talk any more about posts in this way. I want to draw an application for you for just a minute. This is the fanciest, most expensive mausoleum grave in this cemetery. People say, oh, he was very important. Here we are as pastors, none of us, unless something happens that's unusual, we're not going to be like this, right? We're not investing in this. There's a value difference between the world and God, isn't that right? And this, to me, is the low point in the cemetery, not the high point. We're starting with the low point, spiritually speaking. The irony is, the high point is right behind and just over here. Because the whites are buried right over here. And right behind, in the shadow of this mausoleum, is the grave of another person, Sojourner Truth. It's a simple monument. But when you measure value of contribution, this begins to pale. And I guess what I want to say to you, just as a thought, as we leave this place, you're not going to get rich in the ministry, but you're going to serve God, and you're going to do what really matters for eternity. And I would rather do that for a lifetime than end up in one of these. We have another mansion, and that mansion God makes. And that one is not going to be for a dead body. It's going to be for eternity.